Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Welcome to the show. It is 33 minutes past 5. Coming to you live from the Sada Media Studios. This is Yunus Kawanga pushing on the iftar drive until our time of iftar, inshallah ta'ala. So, right now, we're looking at some current events. We saw this morning the news about the cash in transit heist which took place in Durban. And it says that there's about 3 cash in transit attacks that took place in the whole South Africa in one day or over 24 hours. And this is something which brings about alarming concern as to our security on this point. Joining us, inshallah, in going through this topic of cash in transit and the spiking or the upscaling of the heist as a brother Yaseen, who's the director of Vision Tactical, inshallah. Brother Yaseen, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, and welcome to the show.
Walaikum salam. Thank you for having me.
Jazakumullah khair for being with us. Brother Yaseen, starting from the top, we are now speaking on a day where the headlines are dominated by news of 3 heists taking place within 24 hours. And now including the high-speed ambush on the N2 also in Durban this morning. Now, looking at this then, is what we are seeing here a temporary spike in the crimes, or have we entered a new, more dangerous phase of the cash wars?
Well, when these cash in transit incidents occur, they normally occur in a spike. We normally see spikes. And then, of course, law enforcement and private security companies then try and combat them. So we often see these spikes, but I think today what was of serious concern is within a matter of 3 hours, we were alerted to 3 cash in transit incidences. And of course, each one of these incidences are very violent. You see people using to detonate the vehicles. They're using explosives. They often getting off their vehicles with rifles, shooting into the public, shooting into the traffic so that community members and residents in those areas don't come close to the vehicles. And then, of course, the explosion itself is violent. And even when these suspects leave the cash in transit vehicles, they often flee the area, leaving destruction, vehicles that are exploding, often on fire, and a lot of money lying on the road. And members of the public are then rushing towards those vehicles, grabbing the money, which is also great concern.
Subhanallah. And looking at specifically the Durban heist itself, it mentioned that the attacks were military-style precision and the use of commercial explosions, like explosives, like how you mentioned also. Now, from a tactical perspective, how have these syndicates then evolved in their level of sophistication over the past few months?
Well, you can already see, just by the caliber of the firearms that these suspects are using, you can see that they're highly trained. They know what they're doing. They often block off the traffic as they approach the vehicle. They'll have what we refer to as stopper vehicles that will hold the traffic back and close off the road so that this cash in transit vehicle will find itself driving on the road himself, only with suspects around them. They are then forced to stop. There's no traffic in front of them, making it easier for suspects to flee the scene and making it very, very difficult for law enforcement to get the scene because they have to come through the traffic. So this is a strategy we're seeing. I mentioned a few minutes ago that they often leave these vehicles exploded, leaving large sums of cash scattered along the scene. And members of the public then run to that scene. This also makes it very, very difficult for law enforcement to contain the scene, to gather evidence after the suspects have left, and also makes it difficult for them to get to the scene because, the public seeing money on the road, rushing to the scenes. And that's why we continue to appeal to public, don't go near the scene. Once you see a cash in transit vehicle, stay away from the area, make it easy for emergency services to get to those that are injured. Very often the drivers and the crew that's traveling with these vehicles, sometimes the escort vehicle, these people are shot at, these people are traumatized, they can't, they need to, in the attempt to secure the scene, by the public getting there makes it very, very difficult to do what they need to do to contain the scene for police and for investigations. So we continue to appeal to public to allow emergency services to give law enforcement the space so that they can get to the scene, attend to injured firstly, and of course contain it so that we can get to the suspects. Ultimately, we need to get to the suspects so we can stop them. And this is big concern. I mean, a report back that we had from Durban was that once the suspects had fled the scene, traffic trying to get through that road, they blocked off the emergency lanes, the gravel on the side, and it makes it impossible for emergency services to get to the scene. It makes it longer for them to clear the road. It just compounds the problem and the amount of violence to such a level that it becomes unmanageable to basically process the scene.
Subhanallah. And initially, you also mentioned that the news actually was in terms of the 3 attacks within a span of 3 hours apart from each other. Now, on that note, then, what does it say about the state of our intelligence and policing when we see syndicates feel bold enough to strike 3 times in a single day across? I mean, it just boggles our minds to show that that means they undermine the state of our security. So what does it mean regarding the state of our security here and intelligence in South Africa?
No, I mean this is very troubling. For suspects to attack a vehicle like that, knowing that there's members of the public and such large. I mean, if you look at all these incidences that take place, it's all in high traffic zones. Suspects don't fear that there could be a policeman in the traffic. There could be armed people in the traffic. There could be private security in the traffic. It shows that these suspects are becoming blatant. They are far more prepared, and they understand that for police to get to them is virtually impossible. So they become more gutsy. You can see, in some of these cash in transit situations, you see suspects firing rifles in the air wildly. You see them using detonators and vehicles blowing up, flying maybe 10, 20 meters into the air. This level of violence and this blatant disregard for law among the suspects is not something new. But of course, it is troubling. 3 incidences in one day. We can't say whether it's related or not related, but it is a concern because, if these suspects get away with it, if we don't ensure that we curb these suspects, get to them as quick as possible. But again, it takes an effort, a multifaceted approach. Not only intelligence, we need the private companies that are providing these services to work with law enforcement. We require a number of stakeholders to throw their resources together. And of course, when these suspects hit, it's not one suspect or 2 suspects. These groups are groups up to 20, 30 people involved in the cash in transit. That's what it takes for them to pull one of these jobs off. So someone somewhere knows something, and we appeal to people to come forward, inform law enforcement if there is any information, so that we can stop these blatant acts. We've seen lives being lost. There's a number of lives that have been lost over the past year, and that's also a concern. These are violent criminals that are not going to hold back. If it means they have to take a life so that they can flee a scene, they will take a life. And again, I'll tell you, that using just the caliber of firearms that they're using says a lot about the violence that we're dealing with. So our approach needs to be different. Our approach needs to be multifaceted. And it's tactics that have worked in the past. We are engaging with law enforcement. We are engaging with some of the companies so that we can pull our resources together in trying to nab these suspects, number one. And of course, ensure that around these vehicles, we don't have suspicious vehicles following them. What processes can we put in so that we can curb further incidences like this?
No, most definitely. And as we're talking about lives being lost, also it brings the mind to think about that. Oftenly, we speak about the money which has been stolen in these incidences, but today we have security guards who are now in critical condition, and obviously some of them who might have also lost their lives. Now, as someone who is in the security industry, what is the psychological toll on the men and women who have to man these moving targets every day? What would be the implications psychologically for the security guards who have to face these aspects of life every single day.
Well, these cash in transit officers put their lives on the line every day, and I
Mm,
take my hat off to them. It's a job that needs to be done. South Africa is at the stage where we can't go cashless. That's the reality of it. We are years behind going totally cashless.
mm,
And these guys have to do the job. So firstly, we respect them for the job that they're doing, but of course they're working under a lot of stress. Very often you see these guys walking into the malls carrying the boxes, going to clear cash out from ATMs, and some people might mock at them, saying that, what, such heavy artillery. But I mean, only they know what stress they're going through. Many of them have lost colleagues that worked with them very, very closely day to day, and they understand the trauma, they understand the emotional stress that their families go through. But again, they're working in a job where there's no guarantees that they are going to return home. And as much as there are mechanisms in place to protect them, armored vehicles, rifles, bulletproofs, every day is a challenge for them, and every day presents so much trauma for them. More important, their families go through so much, and doing the job, having stress, and then coming home and dealing with the trauma of your family, knowing that you're out there, adds additional pressure. I know that a lot of the entities that do this cash in transit look after their members. They go for psychological evaluations very often. They debrief very often after scenes. They see counselors far more often than the ordinary security guards would do. But again, we're dealing with crime in general in South Africa is very, very stressful. We're dealing with unique circumstances, and we see that level of violence again, which does take its toll on a lot of the officers in the field.
mm. Subhanallah, most definitely. Make dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does make it easy for those who are putting their lives in line, literally, so that they can secure the monies which they have to transit. Brother
Right.
Yaseen, quickly, we'll be just taking a quick break, inshallah. And when we return, inshallah, we'll go deeper into the discussion, inshallah.
Inshallah.
With Ashraful Aid this Ramadan, your zakat changes lives. It feeds families facing hunger, restores dignity to those in need, and brings hope where it is needed most. From food relief to essential support, your zakah reaches communities with care, transparency, and impact.
this with this? Is there a sense of a migration of these syndicates that might be causing disruption in the different provinces? Or, I mean, obviously, this is a far-fetched type of a take for us, but just trying to understand that how is the dynamics moving now that different other provinces are also facing heists, and it's becoming like a trifecta with Gauteng in the mix also, inshallah.
Well, with these cash in transit syndicates, they're far more organized. We find that if they've got a identified heist in KwaZulu-Natal, in the Free State, in Gauteng, they often travel. We've picked up suspects that they have traveled from KZN and performed heists in Johannesburg and went straight back to KZN, and vice versa. There's been lots of suspects that have been arrested by the KZN team that were tracked in Gauteng and later identified in Gauteng. So these suspects don't work within provinces. They often move across, and what we do find is that you'd have very specialized members in these syndicates that would perform certain tasks. For example, there'll be drivers that will be identified so that they can drive to the scene and drive away from the scene. You've got guys that will handle the explosives specifically. You'll have the gunmen that will basically use the firearms as stoppers to push the crowd back, to push the other vehicles back. And of course, the response or escort vehicles that are at the scene. And these guys are well trained. They fit into a crew, and this creates a very unique sense that when response vehicles are getting to the scene, you're dealing with people that are trained in what they need to do, and they know how to do it, and they know how to move. Their planning is often done over a few weeks, over a few months before they actually hit the van. And this is something that the police need to contend with. This is something that response officers and escort vehicles need to contend with. And that is why it's important that we work together to curb some of these suspects.
Subhanallah. And earlier on, Brother Yaseen, you spoke about the bystander safety, which guides where people need to be wary of such incidences and situations and stay away from the CIT, the trucks which are carrying money, etc., and the scene. Now, let's say, for example, for our listeners who might then find themselves stuck in traffic and behind a CIT situation or CIT van, when an ambush then starts, what is the golden rule for survival in those first few seconds of gunfire?
I mean, to try and take cover and move away from the scene as far as possible. If you are at a point where you can't move away and you're stuck in your car in the traffic, which often happens because of the amount of traffic that these guys build up behind them, keep low in your vehicle. Do not get off your vehicle once the suspects have left. We appeal to people again, do not get off your vehicle to grab cash outside the vehicles. Very often, there is rapid gunfire that still takes place. There are other vehicles, scouter vehicles that are blocking traffic that you might not see. You might think that the suspects have fled the scene because the vehicles that are closest to the ambush have fled off the scene. But there are still other vehicles that are supporting these suspects, blocking traffic, being scout vehicles for the suspects. Those vehicles still need to flee the scene. And when you start moving, they might see you as a target, and they might also open up fire. We've seen in previous cases that explosives don't detonate, and there is still live explosives on the cash in transit vehicle. This becomes extremely dangerous. We've seen fires flare after the suspects have gone, and yet, people see money on the road and they run to it. Instinct is they run to it. Our appeal is no money in the world is worth your life. That explosive can still go off. You can lose lives. There has been cases where people that went towards the vehicle ended up getting hurt, getting shot. So our appeal is to not run towards a vehicle. Try and stay in your vehicle if you can't move away from the scene, and try and go as low as possible so that you don't get shot. I mentioned again that these suspects are using rifles, and the range of these rifles, no matter how far you are, try and stay away from the scene. The further you are from the scene, the better. And also, when law enforcement come to the scene, they're going to contain the scene. If you are caught on scene, there's chances that if you contaminate the scene, you tamper with the scene. That is a criminal offense, and you don't want to be caught up in that investigation. You don't want to be held liable for messing a scene up where suspects could be arrested. So we appeal to the public to please refrain from rushing towards the scene. If you are caught up in the scene where you are, take cover, remain calm. You don't have to record it. This is something we're seeing. And very often people are actually stopping, getting out of the vehicles, recording these suspects. These suspects will not think twice to open up fire because they know that footage is going to go viral and they might be identified. So it's not important to record the scene at that point. The cash in transit is taking place. It's not your civic duty to take the video so that you can make the video go viral. Your life is in danger. Please take cover and try to get far away from the scene as possible.
No, 100%. And I think that has to be the first priority of a human being, is to save their life and those of their loved ones in the proximity. Now, looking at the point that it's the beautiful month of Ramadan, a time of peace and a time of reflection. Yet we see that on our news, it's filled with violence. How do we as a community then maintain a sense of security and active citizenry in such a volatile environment?
Well, I think every one of us have got a part to play. We can't firstly sit back and say, you know what, it's up to the police or up to private security or up to our CPF. Everyone has a role to play. If you're going to the masjid, be observant, look out any suspicious activity, report it to your security company, report it to the responsible brothers at the masjid. Alhamdulillah, we see that there are a number of brothers that have taken on the responsibility to ensure that our communities are safe during this month, protecting the masjids, taking responsibility to ensure that parking lots are secure, well lit. Those brothers have taken on the responsibility, but it's a community effort. We need to make sure that people are communicating, monitor the WhatsApp groups, any suspicious activity. Let's be active on the WhatsApp groups, communicate with the police, communicate with the local security companies. Alhamdulillah, I've seen there has been a few medical emergencies from our local masjids recently, and the response has been phenomenal. It's good to see that the unity among the brotherhood, where we all put a helping hand. There's a number of paramedics that have volunteered their time during Taraweeh, during the day, to ensure that our Muslim community, our masjids, our facilities, our madrasas are safe, being monitored, and our brothers and our sisters are being taken care of. But again, this shows that it is a community effort, and we need to all be vigilant. We all need to work together. Get involved in your community police forum. Get involved with your security groups and your local security groups. Know what's happening, assist them, and show them support, because everyone's fasting. Everyone is taking strain, but it's good to see that as a community, we can protect ourselves. We can work together to protect our immediate community, not just the immediate Muslim community, but also our communities around us, and making Ramadan more peaceful, more pleasurable for the brothers and sisters that are congregating at the masjids countrywide. Alhamdulillah.
No, alhamdulillah, most definitely. And now, lastly, inshallah, as we are approaching the time of iftar, what would be your last message to give basically our authorities and those of us in the public as they're heading home for iftar, inshallah?
Well, over the past few years, we've been advocating for closer collaboration between law enforcement and private security companies. General Mawela was a typical example. The former provincial commissioner of Gauteng was a perfect example, and his collaborations showed results. That collaborations are still showing results under the current leadership in the province and countrywide. We call upon the newly appointed acting minister to look out for security companies. There's been very little engagement with the minister, and we continue to look for partnerships. We continue to see how private security companies can play a role in making our country safer, and we continue to appeal to again, the public to join hands with your private security company, with your local police forum, with your local police station. We need the support. Everyone needs the support. Again, I'll say the crime in South Africa is a unique challenge. It affects all of us. No one can say that crime doesn't affect them. And we need to join hands. We need collaboration at all levels, be it provincial, be it at government level.
It's 18 hours.
We need people to work together so that we can deal with the high levels of crime in this country. Alhamdulillah, we've got a beautiful country. We enjoy so many different privileges and so many different rights. But crime has always been a major challenge, and crime can be beaten. It is a challenge, but I think if we work together and we continue to strive to protect our communities if everyone does their own part in their own way, we can win this war.
No, most definitely. Jazakumullah khaira, Brother Yaseen, for your time. And it really took us into a point of reflection and a point whereby we need to stop talking and start acting and being active part or active members of this community, inshallah ta'ala. Jazakumullah khair for your time. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant you a beautiful Ramadan Mubarak, inshallah. Ameen.
Barakallah, Jazakallah for having me, and Jazakallah for covering the points that need attention and making our community aware.
Most definitely. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Alhamdulillah, it is 6 o'clock, so we'll be going for a break, inshallah. After the break, we are moving into the spiritual hour. Today, we have a great friend and a role model also for my sake, Maulana Yusuf Bosman, inshallah ta'ala, as we look at Vugo Zenzela Foundation and the projects that they are busy with in this beautiful month of Ramadan and beyond.
Millions of Muslims